that is what you are saying to me. If I take away anything from this conversation that we're having about what were we talking about? If I take away any from the, it's that you can't share a birthday with Grimace.
We Need to Talk with your hosts, Sammy and Pete.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of We Need to Talk. Only about the 10th podcast available on Spotify with that exact name, so we're going to have to figure out some way to differentiate ourselves here. However, welcome to episode 1. My name is Sammy, and my co-host today is none other than Pete. Pete, how are you today?
I have to remember not to say terrible things because people don't know who I am.
Why would that prevent you from saying terrible things?
Sorry, not terrible things, just humorous things that aren't terrible but could be construed as terrible because people don't know my brand of comedy. So I'm doing excellent. How are you?
I'm good. I get where you're going with this, and it's going to be a slow burn, I feel like, as people get to know you more, get to know us more, get to realize our dynamic and how everything works here. They're going to learn, and you're going to be able to let on more of that style of comedy. So good on you for at least having the emotional intelligence to slow down, at least right out of the gate.
I'm sorry. Again, I was going to make another terrible joke, but I'm going to remain fair to all people who may be listening because that's who I am until you get to know me. And then you realize that Can we restart? Can we just start over entirely? Hi, my name's Consumable Pete. Welcome to my podcast with Sammy. No.
Wow, it's so nice to meet you, Consumable Pete.
It's very nice to meet you too, Sammy. This is the first time we've ever interacted before, and I'm very excited to interact with a stranger for a podcast. Could you imagine doing a podcast with a total stranger?
No. For all you know, that person may be a tremendous introvert with nothing to say, and they give you 15 seconds of dead air at a time. Too much can be left up to chance. It's not good entertainment. You give the people what they want.
I was hoping you wouldn't say anything so I could sit here quietly for 15 seconds.
It occurred to me to do that. But you know what also went through my mind as I did that? During that gap, who's going to look down at their phone and they're going to wonder, is this on pause? Did the audio stop? And that's the danger!
And then that's when we start screaming at the top of our lungs.
I have done more than enough of that in the course of the past 4 days. Pete has been privy to most of it. For anybody that doesn't know me, this is your first time hearing anything from me. I am a tremendous hockey fan. In specific, I'm a tremendous Tampa Bay Lightning fan. I had the brilliant idea, in massive air quotes, to stream myself watching the Stanley Cup playoffs for the Tampa Bay Lightning this year. And it's been 2 games. They are currently down 2-0. I have lost my voice basically on both nights because on night 1, I was just getting upset in general at the fact that they were losing. Last night for game 2, I lost it. I was yelling so much. It's
fantastic.
I'm good. I'm glad it was good entertainment at the very least, but I was so mad at the referees in particular. I was so mad at the result. I was actually mad at my team for not taking advantage of the opportunities they had. So all that to say, my voice is not quite where it should be right now. I have a giant glass of water here with me, and we're going to see how this goes today. But Pete, your team is actually playing in the playoffs right now, yeah?
They literally at this very second, they are losing. I know. Well, they're losing this game. They are tied in the series 1-1. They are losing this game 1-0 with 4 minutes to go in the second period. I'm not watching it. It's not currently on another screen that I have in my room. And it's not currently playing in my ears while we have this conversation on the side quietly. That's not happening. I'm fully committed to this conversation. Now it sounds like I'm lying. Oh God, I'm having a tough time over here, Sammy. Stop the recording. I need to start over. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done a podcast. I've never even made content before. Have you ever done a stream? I tried to do one of those once and I got scared and quit.
But somebody still gave you money because of it.
Somebody gave me some money and then I said, you know what? This isn't so bad. So I did it again and again and again and again. And now I'm like 3.5 years deep.
That first dollar just hits different from the stream sphere. It convinces you maybe there is a career in this, and then you get slapped upside the head with reality that says, I am not a professional streamer. I'm going to settle for doing my 2 days a week where only my friends occasionally throw me $5.
And then you check your ad revenue at the end of the month, and it's like 2 cents. So what the
You made 2 cents this month? That's crazy.
I changed it so that it runs more ads. Now I actually make like a substantial. It's It went from being like 2 to 3 cents to like, okay, real talk. It went from being like 2 to 3 cents to like $1.50 a stream.
That's not bad, actually.
No, if I can get a 4-piece McNugget from every stream that I do, like haphazardly, passively,
Right?
then like I'm gonna take that.
I mean,
I'm
why
gonna
the
take
hell
chicken
not?
nuggets every day of the week. Even if it's just $1.50, I will turn that $1.50 into chicken McNuggets one way or another.
Oh, same. Post stream yesterday, and this was not because I made any sort of money, but because I felt bad for myself and I wanted to eat something terrible. I did that exact thing. I went to McDonald's, and on their app, they have a deal where for like $10, you can get 20 McNuggets and 2 orders of fries, 2 medium fries. And it is amazing. I should not have done that. I did not feel good about myself after that either. But in the moment, it was cathartic. So
that was literally exactly what I did for Munchies for 420.
A phenomenal stream, by the way. On
oh, thank
on
you.
420. Yes, is one of the.
I remember some of it.
If you had to ballpark a percentage for me, how much of that stream do you remember? Because you were on for I think the better part of 7 hours.
It was 6 hours and 26 minutes and 9 seconds. It was like 6.5.
Okay.
And I'd have to like rack my brain real hard to remember most of the details. But yeah, I was there. It occurred. Like I didn't fall asleep or pass out, and I definitely had major streamer brain for most of it. So I never like formed the core memories to remember that stream by. So you know how like you remember like the emotional beats of an event, you know? None of that. I don't remember any of it in that regard. Like if I watched clips, I'd be like, oh yeah, we watched that, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then Spider Games and all that. But for the most part, yeah, that occurred.
Streamer brain, by the way, is a very real thing. You do not have to be partaking in the devil's lettuce to experience streamer brain. It just sort of happens. And I think it's I don't know, it's a presentation thing to where you can say something and immediately forget exactly what it is that you just said. And you and I have both experienced this, but most recently on your stream, on that 420 stream, you said something. I immediately typed out a comment and then you read it off and like, what were we talking about? I don't remember. Moving on. In the span of like 15 seconds.
Yeah. My brain, I liken to a train, and it moves in one direction. It takes a while for it to stop. And if you ask me to go back, that's going to be a feat. So especially like you said, you get like presentation brain where you're trucking, you're going. And it's like when you're driving and you like, it's been like an hour or two in the car. And all of a sudden you're like, I don't remember driving this. I don't remember doing all of this. It's like that. It's just like that.
That disassociating mental phenomenon. I actually realized that I do that while I'm driving, by the way, and that's probably not the best thing in the world for me. But I realized it on my ridiculously long road trip from Canada to Arizona that there were large periods of time where I was just disassociating and I lost 2 to 3 hours worth of driving. Like I know I was listening to something in my ears. I know we got there safely, but I don't remember most of it.
That sounds awesome. Not gonna lie.
It is a way to pass time.
What are you using? This is completely unrelated. Segue. What are you using to record?
Right now, I'm actually just I set up a scene in OBS Studio,
okay.
and it is a blank screen, and I'm going to rip the audio afterwards.
Okay, I thought that might be the case. You know, for the techie viewer, for the listener. Right. What's the protocol on? I guess I have to like do a deep dive into like podcast philosophy. Do we only address each other, or do we address which you've already done? So never mind. Address the audience.
I mean, yeah, we do need to like make sure that people know that we are listening to them, even though they're listening to us. I don't know. I haven't made full sense of this in my brain, but like, yeah, address the audience. Why not?
Holy shit.
I found myself in years past. I used to do a gaming podcast with my friends, and on the episodes that I wasn't on, I would go back and listen to it like as soon as they would release it. And the funniest thing was that they would be having conversation and I would be chiming in as if I was actually in the room with them, as if they were actually listening to me, and they would just skirt right past everything that I was saying because of course they couldn't hear me. It was all pre-recorded. So I kind of want that to be the case for some unfortunate viewer and or listener out there. Maybe we'll get that. Maybe our conversation dynamic will be so intriguing, so enthralling that it will make people want to participate alongside us, even though they can't actually do so.
I do that while listening to some like sports wrestling, those kinds of podcasts where it is like heavily discussion based and someone is making a point. I'll find myself sitting there going, "Yep, absolutely," and then I'm like, "That's nobody can hear me."
But out there in the ether, it was a great point. I want you to know that I acknowledge your great point.
I've put my positivity towards your point out into the universe, so it's done with. I've done it.
Got to count for something.
I guess what we're saying is, hello, Seattle. My name is Dr. Fraser Crane. I'm listening.
I'm going to have to go back and rewatch that. Like when Frasier came out, I was a kid. I didn't appreciate it on the same level that I do today as an adult.
Right, of course. I've only seen it as an adult. I've never saw it as a kid. So like I never had like the moment of, oh, what is this? I don't understand. What is Sherry Niles? And now I watched it only as an adult, so I understood all like the doofy shit they were saying to each other. For the most part.
That lineup back in the day, I think just on NBC alone was Seinfeld, Friends, and Frasier, all back to back with each other. And as a kid, I liked one of those significantly better. I loved Friends because it's people hanging out and they're making jokes. And Joey's funny and he doesn't share food. It's wonderful. I didn't understand the comedy of Seinfeld nor Frasier at that age. I appreciate them so much more in my adulthood.
I've also noticed that there are just certain things that you can't get when you're a kid. Even like on the precipice of adulthood, like you have to like be like, I think of a show called Party Down, which is a show about people working in a party planning and catering business, basically. And I watched that when I was in college before I had like a real job. And I was like, yeah, this is fine. And then I watched it again after college, after I'd worked on a food truck for 6 years. And I thought it was one of the funniest shows I've ever seen. And I completely got all of it because I had literally done it. I didn't understand it before because I didn't live that and didn't experience that. Then I watched it again after having had similar experiences, and then I was able to relate to it and find it humorous, and now it's one of my favorite shows.
I think one of the things that will never stop amazing me is how many of our kid shows growing up in the 90s were very adult themed, and we didn't understand because the jokes were just, oh, they're cartoony and funny, and they flew right over our head. Remember Rocko's Modern Life?
Oh, the Choky Chicken.
Choky Chicken, amongst many other things, like how about the fact that Rocco definitely worked for a sex hotline?
Oh baby, oh baby, oh baby, Rocco. Yes, yes.
That's a deep dive we can do on another show. But there's so much adult humor in our kids shows. I like to think that it shaped us into the people that we are today.
Well, like even like seeing like commercials for like I remember seeing a commercial for the syndication of Seinfeld when it first hit like I want to say like TBS. And the commercial, the end of the commercial, the big joke that they had at the end of the commercial was, and you only know this if you've A, seen the episode and B, get the joke. It's the build up through the whole episode. It's what's that woman's name? It rhymes with a part of the body. And then he runs to the window, throws it open and screams, Dolores! And as a kid, I'm like, why is he screaming Dolores out a window? You don't understand that. And that was in the commercial so that was wild. Times were different back then.
You and I have had many conversations about the kind of stuff that you definitely cannot show on TV these days. The kind of jokes you can't.
Oh, yeah.
It's and a lot of it justified. Okay, I won't ruin exactly what happens, but as you said on your stream on Saturday nights, you've been watching as far as I am to understand, an unknown soap opera by the name of Spider Games. That I guess was on MTV. Back in the early 2000s. And
you know we're going to be talking about that on this, right?
I did not know that, but...
not tonight, but...
Oh, at some point?
Eventually.
Oh, at some point,
yes.
I guarantee it. But like...
Once we're done with it.
Without actually saying the thing or spoiling what happens, there's a particular phrase that came up during one watch through, which I believe prompted you to watch episodes ahead of time before you started showing them online.
Yep.
And we all had this collective... even though we're not in the same room, we still somehow managed to lock eyes over the internet and just go like, oh, that was on TV. It probably shouldn't be ever.
No, that was real bad. That was, yep. That was like the worst thing that's ever been on my stream. I've shown most extreme elimination challenge on my stream. And that's the worst thing that's been said. That Spider Games. Shout out to Spider Games. Shout out to Sean Batten, actress, playing Natalia on Spider Games, for being I don't know. I think an ally, maybe. I'm not entirely sure anymore.
Nobody really knows for sure. But also, thank you, Spider Games, for giving you one of the best channel alerts on your channel at this point.
And there's more coming. There's more of those coming as well.
Oh, fantastic.
And if you'd like to see those channel alerts, make sure you check out https://twitch.tv/consumable Pete. Fridays and Saturday nights, but mostly Saturday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. That wasn't called for.
We'll get there during the self-promotion portion of the show, which is going to be like
ABP, always be plugging. No.
I'm glad that's the P word you thought of.
What did you think the P word was going to be?
Look, I have strange friends, okay? Let's not go there.
Okay.
We're going to leave that as a teaser and let the audience fill in the blank. What was Sammy thinking was her P word right there? Write us a comment. So you can't write us a comment on Spotify. I don't know. Find a way to write to us somehow and tell me what P word you think I was thinking.
P.O. Box. Yeah. Oh, I wish I remembered like a famous P.O. box now. Of course I don't, because why would you?
Why would you?
If you want to be a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, send your resume too.
Did you really have to send resumes to be on game shows back in the day? I hope not.
I don't know. I just said words. I don't know. I got nervous.
That's fair. Let's get into our main course here, shall we? So, as I said at the top, for right now, we're calling this show We Need to Talk. And the basic idea here is that Pete and I are both going to bring a topic to the table. It is something that has been weighing on our minds as of late, either good, bad, indifferent, whatever, but we just want to talk about it. And Pete and I have some legendary conversations that oftentimes can go entirely too long. And that's that's the basis for the show. So with that in mind, Pete, we need to talk.
What are we going to talk about, Sammy?
Specifically, I want to talk about this idea, this almost compulsive behavior to feel connected at all points in time. So let me lay a little bit of groundwork here. I've had 2 experiences within the last week that put this back on my radar again. And I think on a subconscious level, I have felt this for a long time, but you need kind of those landmark moments to bring it back into full focus. So the first of which
was it that emotional, like I mentioned earlier, that like emotional beat that stuck with you? Yeah. And that's why it's like, oh shit, I need to talk about this.
No, yeah, sincerely. Yeah, that's 100% what it is.
Okay.
So the first of those 2 experiences, and I'll knock these both out in like 30 seconds. The first was as I was driving at some point, the thought just occurred to me. I work in an industry where being connected is paramount, right? So I need to be in touch with my coworkers, with my boss. I work remotely from home. I'm on the road a lot. So I need to be connected quite a bit. And I had this immediate thought of, remember when you didn't have to return messages within 30 seconds of seeing them? Do you remember being a kid and when you would get a phone call, if you weren't home, they would actually leave you a message, not end the phone call before they could leave you a message and immediately type out something on iMessage or on Instagram or on Discord or any other of the 18 bajillion ways to get a hold of you? You were not obligated to respond to anything until you actually knew what you were responding to. And sometimes that could take the matter of a day. Sometimes it could be weeks at a time if you were on vacation, whatever. And that's just stuck with me for a moment because I'm like, I almost feel the need to respond to things immediately. Experience number 2, I've been talking to somebody here recently, and she brought up this idea of my habit with friends is that if we're going to hang out, we're going to turn our phones on D&D. We're just going to be there in the moment. And I had like this, that almost sounds like a vacation. That not even for the sake, like when I'm physically with somebody, I do my very best to give them my attention. So like if they can see my phone, I make sure my phone is face down. I make sure it's not even on silent. I don't want it buzzing. I don't want anything. I just want them to know that they have my full attention. But even then, you're still sort of at the whim of notifications to some extent. But there's something incredibly freeing just in this idea of, I'm going to turn my phone on do not disturb. No notification is going to make its way to me. I will get back to you when I feel like it. Holy cow. How did we get to this point? So, first question is initially, do you experience this same thing that I am currently struggling with?
I think I've been on this exact journey that you are on now, and I think I'm a little bit further down the road.
Okay, hit me.
I've had Android phones since smartphones have been a thing. I've never had an iPhone, and I've always loved that iPhones have that feature where when you get a text, it turns on the screen. It'll turn on the screen and show you a big notification of this is the text message. Here is the text message. I want you to know that you have a text message, and I'll remind you again in 2 minutes of this text message.
Yes.
I love that about iPhones. I'm like, wow, what a fantastic feature. My cheapo Samsung smartphone that I had at the time that actually still had a sliding screen and a physical keyboard underneath it, which was wild. I almost wish I still had it just because it was a piece of like ancient history now. But even with that, I had to download an app so that it would make a notification on my screen. I had to download a second app so that it would turn on my screen and remind me of the text that I got 2 minutes ago, just like an iPhone would. Because when I was in college, I needed to be that connected. My friends texted me. I needed to know the exact second that I got that text message, exactly what it said, and I needed to respond to it right then and there. I needed all of it, exactly as you said. Just boom, boom, boom. I needed to have that immediate connection. I couldn't turn it off. I needed it.
Yeah.
And then it was almost, I think that would used to be like my dopamine hits, you know, and I needed it. I needed to get it all the time, and I needed it directly into my veins. Now I've since, I don't put, my phone is on vibrate all the time, so I don't hear it when it goes off. I do have a smartwatch that'll tell me when I get a text message. Sometimes I'll look at it, sometimes I won't. It used to be like if I was hanging out with people, I'd have my phone like right there in my hand or in my pocket, ready to go in case someone else contacted me and wanted to hang out. It's like, oh, you should come join us. I'm hanging out. Let's all hang out together. We're all gonna. I don't know what my thought process was, but it was constant. A constant instant connection was. I bought a new phone because that first shitty little Samsung with the sliding keyboard had this issue where it wouldn't refresh if I didn't turn it on for a long period of time. So sometimes I would like let it sit on my desk, and I'm like, how come no one's texted me? I haven't had my dopamine hit. So I'd check my phone, and let's say it would be 7 at night. Sometimes I would check the phone and the screen would say 2:18, and then it would update to 7:58, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And then all of a sudden, text, and my dopamine, it's been waiting for me. I was so into it. Everything, all the time. I still sit at a computer with Discord on. So like, but like if I hear it go off and I'm across the room, I don't like rush over. I keep my phone on vibrate. I want to know if people call me because that's usually important. If somebody's calling me, if somebody texts me, it's literally the old idea of a text message was this is for you when you get a chance. Message, much like a voice message that you would leave and wait for someone to get back to you at a later point in time. So I very often get texts from people. I'll read them and I'll go, I'll formulate a response soon. Like, even if it's just friends chatting, like I'm just chatting with my friends about what's going on, I'll formulate a response soon. And sometimes I'll just wait a couple of days to get back to them. And then I'll get back and we'll resume our conversation. We'll chat for a bit and then I'll do the same thing again. And it's just, I don't know if it's like a social spoons thing where it's like I'm running out of spoons and I don't want to do it anymore, or if it's just I have finally relaxed enough and I have found other ways to receive pleasure from life that I don't need that. Everyone needs to contact me all the time, and I need it right now, right in my veins. Please give it to me.
I'm going to choose to give you benefit of the doubt and say it's the latter. And as you're sitting here talking, like, I'm like, oh, good, I can learn something from Pete today. And you mentioned text message. For those that can't see, which is everybody, Pete literally just took his phone, threw it over his head onto his bed. I hope it's okay.
That's fine. I need a new one.
You're in the same camp as far as text messages with my friend Laura, and I respect the hell out of Laura because we basically have an understanding these days that if I text her, I'm probably not going to get a response for at least a day. Sometimes it is 2 days, sometimes it's the better part of a week, and that's fine. I have lost this preconceived notion that if somebody doesn't text me back with the same urgency that I text them, that it means they don't like me the same that I like them. And so I brought that up to Laura at some point last year. At some point, we were hanging out by the pool, and I was just like, how on earth do you manage to do this? It was more exploratory for me than judgmental, because like I want to get to that point where I don't feel this compulsive need to respond to messages immediately. Never mind all the notifications I get on social media, just text messages themselves. her response was something to the effect of, well, you're not going anywhere, are you? Like, well, no, I suppose not. Like, it's fine. If I need to give it an immediate response, I will. It's not that she is just completely ignoring her phone and then she comes back to 18 text messages. It's just, if I need to respond in the moment, I will. If I don't, then I'm going to put it on the back burner until I actually need to respond in that moment. I think it's probably fair to say that I have a larger social media footprint than you do. Yes?
Yes. I'm my main social media presence is literally just Twitch.
A few questions, because again, this is a good way for me to learn from somebody who is doing things in my mind better than I am. At this point in time, how many hours per day would you say that you spend on your phone?
Oh, so it's really funny. I get like a report at the end of the week. I just don't read it. It'll tell me like how much more or less I used my phone than the week before. I'm pretty sure if I checked that report, it would tell me my overall phone usage. A majority of my phone usage happens when I wake up in the morning because I don't want to sit at my desk just yet. So I'll go on my phone and I'll check Discord and I'll like check like news and junk and just to see like what's going on in the world. And then I'll come back to my computer and I'll sit down at my computer, which I work from. So I'm like always on it. So even when I'm working, I'm connected to the internet, but I'm not necessarily connected to social media. I've gotten to the point where on Twitter, I have unfollowed or blocked just straight up so many things and people that even though I'm following like 100 something people, I only see tweets from like 4 or 5 people each day. So there's really no reason for me to go on Twitter or whatever it's called anymore. From my perspective, like there's not much to do on my phone anyway. I actually use my phone to call people.
What?
Which is wild. I know, like I legitimately use it to call a lot of people.
Because
I talk to my mom. I legitimately sometimes, like if I don't want to leave my room, I'll just call my mom in the other room.
Okay.
I know, genuinely, I'm like the wrong end of millennial. I'm like what was it, Generation Y just before millennials?
I think it was Gen X.
Oh yeah, so what the fuck happened to Generation Y?
Question. I don't know.
That was a thing.
I think it was Boomer, Gen X, Millennial, and then now it's Gen Z. Maybe there was a Gen Y? Hang on. Keep talking.
It was like so. I think there were like subcategories within the more larger category. Because I thought millennials were supposed to be after me, but it turns out that I am, and I'm pretty sure you would be considered a millennial as well, quite possibly. But you might be on like I subscribe more to like your end of millennial / Gen X.
Okay, Gen Y is interchangeable with millennial, apparently.
Boom. Okay, thank you.
You
I'm glad you looked that up. I feel more relationship to Generation X, where like I remember my life before I had a computer and a phone. Sure. Like I still remember that life.
Sure.
I remember not having digital cable. I remember having like channels went up to like 56 where the Weather Channel was, and it kind of like fainted off after that. There was like a few channels after that.
Physical antenna on your television set.
We did have one black and white antenna television set with a dial on it that you had to turn, and it went. It was actually amazing.
Yep.
It was actually kind of portable too. It had like handles on the back of it. It was very lightweight, and it was supposed to be like, put it where you want, in the kitchen, in the bedroom, put it on the tub if you're having a patty. I don't know. I don't know what people do with black and white portable televisions.
I also want to know what kind of party people are getting in the tub for, but that's another conversation.
Tub party.
Tub party? Get out of here.
Okay.
Please continue with your point before I so rudely interrupted you.
For a while, I think I was just like trying to keep up with everybody else who was connected. And now I'm to the point where like, I don't fucking care. I ain't got time. I'm too fucking tired and I ain't getting fucking paid, dude. Like, it sounds so shitty, but like, I ain't getting paid to check my phone. I get paid to do other shit, and I do that shit 40 hours a week. And then when that's done, like, I might check my phone. I don't know, maybe. Like, I text a few people. Like, sometimes I'll check my phone. It's like my last text message will be from like days ago. And it's like, oh, nobody's bothered me recently. Nice. Which is bad sometimes. No, it's just, I used to really feel the need to be connected because of that dopamine hit.
Yeah.
I think that's just really what it comes down to. It sounds bad. It's that like, and if you want to go like straight into like the social media thing with it, it's that like, oh, I have a like, oh, this got this many likes. I have to check it to see if anybody's liked it recently, which I've done. And I still do occasionally. Like I've been there every now and again. You might post something on Reddit or you leave a comment somewhere. And then it's just like, does anybody reply to my comment? I'm just going to look. I'm just going to see. And it's that. It's that again. I'm just gonna check my phone to see if anybody texted me.
We're gonna get there shortly because That's part of the research I did into this, and a lot of this is fascinating. But you pretty much answered like the rest of my questions just based on how much time you actually spend on your phone. The average screen time, now screen time being a more overarching umbrella term here, because it can also mean if you're on your computer, if you're playing video games on a console, if you're doing, it all counts towards screen time. But the average screen time for somebody of our generation is 6 hours and 42 minutes. For Generation Z, it's 7 hours and 18 minutes. It's obviously going further and further up. But for somebody,
Is that a day?
yes, per day.
What?
Yes, per day.
Screen time overall or just the phone?
Screen time overall.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
I agree.
It's more understandable. Again, you work from home, I work from home, so bare minimum 8 hours you're spending in front of your computer, so you get a little bit of leeway on that. Again, you kind of have to build that nuance into the conversation here with screen time and also what you're using your phone for. It's like one of my other questions was going to be, how many social media apps do you have? And it's probably close to zero. It's probably Discord, maybe Instagram if I had to guess.
I have an Instagram. I don't use it. I have a Twitter account. I don't use it. I have a Facebook, like a personal Facebook that like I very rarely, if ever, use. I use it to like contact people who like I might need to, or family, and Twitch.
Yeah.
And we said Discord. And even then, I don't really consider Discord like social media per se, because it's more like it's more just social than it is media.
Yeah, I'll grant you that. It fulfills a similar role of social media,
It does.
Of other platforms. It almost puts them all under the same umbrella as a grab bag of social media. Like, oh, you want to share pictures? You can do that here. You want to talk about news stories? You can do that here too. You want to get on a voice call or video call? You can do that too. So it's kind of your catch-all social media at this point. My other question, and again, you pretty much answered this already, was going to be, how many notifications do you get per day and how many do you actively click on when you get them? It sounds like that number is pretty low for you.
Let's see what's on my phone right. Oh, my phone's over there.
Yeah, you threw it.
Oh, it's right here. It's right here. It's not far. I have a notification from 556, a message on Facebook that I have not responded to. I don't respond to it whenever. I have a notification from an app from 30 minutes ago. Don't care. Another notification from an app from 7 o'clock. Don't care. Urgent. Time is running out on the Affordable Connectivity Program. Oh, that sounds important. Don't care. It's going to be 9 degrees tomorrow. Don't care. So those are all my notifications currently, and I don't care.
Let me put this in perspective for you, because I'm also on the older side of millennial. I do remember what it was like before you had a phone, a supercomputer in the palm of your hand at every waking moment of the day. I remember what it was like before digital cable. Remember what it was like before having video game consoles. Like, I remember this life distinctly. But I'm also so incredibly ingrained into this present reality that I'm trying to find my ways to gain separation from it. But my social media folder on my phone is just labeled time sinks because I'm very realistic about what they are. But in this folder, I currently have 11 apps with varying degrees of how often I check them and how often I actually use them. But just my notifications, since we started recording, I have 7 messages on Instagram. Lord knows, Lord knows I'm going to end up responding to all of them because that's just the kind of person I am. I have a notification from Xbox, and I'm not entirely sure what that is, but there's that. I have two notifications from Twitch, and I have 2 notifications from Gmail, both of which I will actually need to look at some point when we're done. And then I have a suggested video from YouTube. So if that doesn't go ahead and just explain the difference between the lifestyle of living on a phone that you and I have, I'm not entirely sure what does. The biggest thing for me is wanting to cut out that compulsive need to be connected at every waking moment of the day. Because Lord knows, I wouldn't want that from my workplace. I wouldn't want to have to be accessible 24 hours a day. Spoiler alert, I kind of already have that. But I wouldn't want that from the things, as you well put, I ain't getting paid for. The things I choose to engage with. And that probably has something to do with setting better boundaries and using social media in a more responsible manner.
Of those 11 social media apps that you have in the time sync folder, how active are you on those 11? Are you active on all 11?
No, not really. So Instagram is the one that I'm the most active on. It's right up there with Discord. I have a Twitter. I don't use it really. I peruse every couple of days. I have a Facebook. I get into arguments on the reg with people. No, that's not entirely true. No, I I do occasionally post things on Facebook, but I'm not like sharing cat photos or vacation stories or anything else. Like I see something that I want to talk about and engage with, and that's part of how I want to use social media responsibly. But social media, and especially Facebook, is not conducive to nuanced conversation. So it's kind of this futile effort on my part.
What do you mean?
Do we really need to get into it, Pete?
Are you telling me that anonymous users sitting behind a keyboard, or even people that you know sitting behind a keyboard and not looking you in the face, for some reason feel the ability to disrespect or undermine your opinions just because they're not looking you face to face for some reason? Is that what you're saying? Or
got into that very thing today. But yeah, so I don't really use my Twitter. I don't really use my Facebook. I have a Snapchat to primarily keep in touch with one friend here and to keep in touch with my sister. Past that, I watch YouTube videos. I never freaking go on Reddit. I never go on Threads. I had that account and used it for like a week. And I'm on Twitch, but like, how often am I actually watching Twitch on my phone when I have a computer sitting right in front of me? So I would say probably about a third of the apps that I actually have in this folder are ones that I use on a regular basis.
this is one thing that you might relate to.
Okay.
One of my main issues with, like, obviously a lot of us got like pushed onto social media in one way or another because of the pandemic. That's the only reason I'm on Discord. I was not on Discord before the pandemic. I got on Discord in 2020, and that's kind of been it. I tried to reconnect with people like on Facebook, and I was just sort of like, oh, this is still Facebook.
Yep.
I never downloaded a Snapchat, but like everybody I know, I think majority of people I know are on Snapchat. My nephew is on Snapchat, and he's like 9. So he talks to his cousins on there. So I checked. But I never felt the need to do it, because when I tried to like reconnect during that period where everyone was reconnecting, it felt like that rat race again of check the notifications, who's responded to me. Like, in the days and weeks after becoming very active on Discord, I would like get up in the morning, like scroll. I'm like, what are the new messages on Discord? Like, I was very excited. And then I was like, and at some point I realized, oh, I'm doing that thing that I used to do. And then even with Twitch, same exact thing. I got on Twitch and I was very into Twitch. I'm like, let's do this whole thing. Twitch and Discord kind of went like hand in hand together. And I started following a bunch of people on Twitch. I wanted to be on their chats. I wanted to know when they were live because I needed to be in their chat and I wanted to be a part of everything that was going on. And then I was like, oh, this is so exhausting, because I started to go back to work mostly. Yeah. I turned off all notifications for Twitch. It was one of the smartest decisions I think I made, like transitioning from not working, being around, hanging around, chatting with people, to I have to go back to living like a semi-normal life. And I think part of like going back to live that semi-normal life, and then other things that occurred in my life, just led me to just not give a crap about social media just as a whole. I'm very much on YouTube all the time. A majority of the content that I consume is on YouTube at this point in my life. If it's not on YouTube, it's on Twitch or it's a live sport.
Yeah.
So it's one of those. I don't watch a lot of like scripted television, and if I do, it's like I have to seek it, I have to find it. I will watch it one way or another, and I do, and I enjoy it, and I tell all my friends about it. Hence a podcast. I also did have to laugh at I want to be less connected to people, and that's why I'm doing this, a podcast where I'm talking to someone else via a webcam and connecting with other people who I can't see. But that's not your point. You're right. It's not entirely your point anyway, but I did have to point that out, as it's kind of funny.
Oh, by all means, I'm here for you pointing out my hypocrisies. You were kind of dancing around something, and you didn't say the thing specifically, but you talked about it in no uncertain terms. And this is basically where I was hoping the conversation was going to lead to anyway. It's this fear of missing out. So a lot of it does get down to that dopamine hit of, you get a text message, you get a message on Instagram, Discord. Oh, somebody wants my attention. Like, this is a good thing. I want to engage with this. But over time, I think it slowly morphs into this idea of I need to keep up with everything that everybody else is doing, whether that's a social media trend, whether it's on Twitch, something that somebody else is doing with their stream. I need to keep up. The FOMO is real. Let me hit you with a couple of quick stats from a study from last year. This is 2023. Okay. This is a survey from mylife.com. Finds that 56% of social media users experience FOMO, with 48% saying that social media makes them feel like they're missing out on experiences. Whether that's, oh, this person gets to go on vacation in this beautiful place, I'm missing out. Everybody's talking about this story and I'm not talking about it, I'm missing out. 45% of people who experience FOMO can't go longer than 12 hours without checking social media. 69%, nice, of millennials also say they worry about missing out on events if they don't check social media. And this is a little cheeky one that I've noticed specifically on Instagram, targeted ads. According to a survey by Global Web Index, 37% of social media users say they have purchased because of FOMO.
Oh, wow.
I will admit that I have done this. Okay. I have. So people can't see it right now. This was not my purchase, but this white hockey jersey that you see behind me, like I've told this story on screen before, it's a limited. Gasparilla, Pete.
Yeah, that's what I said.
it was a limited edition jersey. I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want that. And at the end of it, like, is my life substantially better by virtue of not by having that jersey versus not? Well, probably not. Like, it's a cool thing that I get to say I have this limited edition thing. There's a shirt, like a soccer jersey type shirt that I occasionally wear on my streams as well. And it was a limited run thing from one of my favorite musical artists. His name is Matthew Hafey, and he makes his own clothing lines. And he put out this soccer jersey type shirt that you can customize with your name on the back. And it was there for a limited time. Like, oh, that's a really cool thing. I can only get that so often with my name on the back. Spoiler, you could actually just go and make it if you really wanted to on any t-shirt website out there. But it's that same capitalization of, hey, this artist that I really like is making this thing that I really like, and I might not be able to get it. Ergo, I should put my money into this. And I realize every time afterwards how absurd that actually is. And so I like, full hands up, that 37% includes me. I have bought because of FOMO.
You said that, and now I'm like racking my brain to think if I have.
It can apply to basically anything, right? Like, I remember a few years ago, and this was touted as it's only going to be a limited time thing, but I'm a big whiskey drinker. So there was a whiskey brought out by the name of Blackened, and it was a collaboration with Metallica. And yeah, like it's kind of it's a gimmick. Let's not kid ourselves. But like, while the whiskey was in the barrels, like, they would actually blast it with Metallica songs. Like, that's the whole thing. Did it change the flavor? Of course not. Not a word of a lie. Go and look it up. But I convinced myself this is only going to be around for a little while. I must get a bottle of it. And it took me forever to get through that bottle because, like, oh, I have this thing. The FOMO got me. I don't want to waste it. And now I can go to any liquor store and I can buy one easily. And, oh, it's the next edition of it. And FOMO got me good. Like, it can happen anywhere, even down to like fast food. I'm sure you can think of some fast food phase or fad that you have hit just because it's only here for, I don't want to miss out. I don't want to miss out. I know exactly what you're pointing to.
It's not there. It's gone. It must have fallen off.
There. I know what you should be pointing to, but please enlighten our audience as to what that thing is.
Okay, yeah, you did enlighten me too. I don't know if I would classify this as a FOMO buy. I saw a Grimace shake on the menu at McDonald's last year, and I thought, that's adorable, and I bought it anyway. There were a lot of reasons cooked into why I really liked the Grimace birthday gimmick at McDonald's that I'm not necessarily going to go into, because oddly personal. So there is not currently, but there should be, a stuffed Grimace shake behind me. I did not purchase that Grimace shake.
Oh, that was a gift.
I did not purchase that Grimace shake. I did purchase many other Grimace shakes. I fucking liked them. I thought they were delicious. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, that's the main reason. The first time I bought it, I thought it was cute. I'm like, Grimace birthday, that's adorable. And there's a new shake, and I didn't know what flavor it was. I just saw that it was purple, and purple ice cream in my mind said black raspberry, and that's one of my favorite ice cream flavors. It's a thing in the Northeast. I don't know how much it is a thing in other parts of the country. Have you ever had?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, fuck. Next time you're up here, please remind me. We'll go to an ice cream place so you can try black raspberry. I'm not even kidding. It's delicious.
That sounds amazing. I want some.
Did you have a Grimace shake?
No, I was.
Oh, shit!
I didn't even realize that the Grimace shake was a thing until I saw the social media fad of everybody dying from the Grimace shake. Like, I think it happened roughly around my birthday as well, which Grimace co-opted my birthday. What a douchebag! But my friend sent me a message because I was like showing off the birthday meal I had made for myself, and I got a milkshake somewhere. And my buddy says, "Oh, it's way better than the Grimace shake, I'm sure." I'm like, "What Grimace shake are you talking about?" If that message had not come my way, I may very well still have no idea what the Grimace shake was and why it became this weird cultural phenomena.
I don't know why it became a cultural I know, whatever, it just catches on and then people do it. I did do a Grimace shake killing me thing live on my stream.
Yes, you did.
And that I fucking nailed it. But I did just know, I did have to write down, and I wrote it in all capital letters, and I underlined it, and I made it bold. Sammy can't share a birthday with Grimace.
No, it's true. Yeah.
That is what you are saying to me. If I take away anything from this conversation that we're having about, what were we talking about? If I take away any from the, it's that you can't share a birthday with Grimace. I understand that completely.
I can't believe I actually did look this up. Grimace's birthday is 17 days before mine. It's in the same month. So it's too close to mine. But like Grimace gets a whole ass month to release his shake. I get a day. How is this fair?
I hope they do it again. No, not a sponsor. McDonald's is not a sponsor of this podcast. However, McDonald's, if you would like to sponsor this podcast, I'm
I would gladly try my first Grimace shake if it's a sponsored deal.
But black raspberry is a very good flavor. So I saw purple and I thought to myself, well, it's probably black raspberry flavored. So that was my main initial point in trying it and buying it. And then it became a thing on my stream. Yeah. Which was cute. Like I said, on top of it, there were like personal reasons that I wanted to buy it on top of like thinking that it was cute. So I bought it anyway. And then it became like a bit of a meme, which was fine with me because I have this weird thing about making memes out of people. I don't want to do it. People are people and not fucking jokes, including me, to an extent. Yes, I can make a character out of Consumable Pete, but at the end of the day, I'm a human and an individual, and I'm not like a post for which to pin the tail upon the donkey. I don't know. It's not, I'm serious. I'm a very serious individual. But I don't like making memes out of people. So to make a meme out of Grimace was great. So that kind of like took on a life of its own. Going back to your FOMO thing, which was why we brought up Grimace in the first place.
Yes.
Especially FOMO on social media. When I first got into like being on Discord, I was heavily involved in a server for a wrestling news content machine on YouTube. They're not a content machine. They don't put out that much. They make a bunch of videos, mostly lists and wrestling news. And I was heavily into wrestling because that was literally the only live thing that was occurring for a short period of time at the start of the pandemic. So it was like the only thing that I still had that was normal. And even then it wasn't normal because they were performing in an empty room. It was very strange, but it was still live. It was the only thing. And this group were doing live streams to react to wrestling. Okay. So I would watch the live streams. Over time, I started joining in on the chats in the live streams that were happening on YouTube and on Twitch. So that was kind of one of the reasons I got involved in Twitch too. And then on Discord, I found out they had a server. I joined the server. I became popular there. I became a moderator. Shortly after becoming a moderator, the world started to open back up. I started to go back to my job. Their streams would occur just as I was ending my work day, which was still pretty early. But I distinctly remember a time where a bunch of bots, I believe, or some racist event, something or other, had occurred during one of the streams. And everybody was talking about it. All of the other moderators were talking about it because there were a ton of moderators that were in the chat at the time, and everybody else took care of it. And I was the newest moderator, and I was just sort of like there. Yeah. And I was very, very, very upset that I was not involved with what everyone else was involved in because I was at work, there were other things involved where I didn't want to be at that work, but that's separate. It's still to the point of I like needed that. I completely missed that like dopamine hit of everybody needs me. I'm one of the I'm an important member of the online community. Like I didn't get that, and then because I didn't get that and everybody else, all the other moderators got it, I was like, shit, I fully missed out on that. And then I had a further fear of shit, I need to get a different job so that I can be around for this more often because I like these people and I want to do this more than I want to do that, which was probably unhealthy, but it was more the job that I needed to get away from. I found a job that I actually am around most of the time. But then literally as soon as I started doing this job, I like stopped being very active on Discord just because I do my job and I'm very good at my job and it takes up 40 hours of my week. So, and then I go out and try to touch grass when I'm done with work. So then any sort of interaction now is like, it's what's happening between emails and at the end of the day, basically. So I learned how to overcome that just by like, I literally had to readjust my full fucking life, which sounds bad, but like a lot of it had to do with being unhappy with my job at the time. So I feared that I was missing out on better things because I was doing something that was, I felt like it was sucking my soul. So I think if at the time I was doing a job that was more fulfilling or that I liked better, or even if I was doing the job that I'm doing now in an office, you know what I mean? I think that I wouldn't have felt that fear of missing out. I think the reason I felt it in that case was because it was something better. And you fear missing out on better things. You don't care if you miss, like, let's say oh shit, I really wanted to go to that party, or oh man, everybody's watching this stream and I didn't get a chance to be there. Then you talk to people about it later. Oh, how was that party? Oh, how was that stream? Oh, how did things go? What was it like hanging out with this? Whatever it might be. Oh, it was fine. It wasn't that great. The stream, they just sort of faffed around for 3 hours. They were terrible at the game. It was normal. It wasn't anything special. Or we went to the party, there were some people there that got too drunk. I had a decent time. Listen to music, chatted, and that was that. And then you find out, oh, I didn't actually miss out on anything better. And I think that's ultimately what we fear when we fear missing out.
Yes.
We don't care if we miss out on something that doesn't matter and isn't consequential. We fear that we're missing out on something better. And what that better might be is, I think, ultimately dependent on other factors outside of social media even.
Here's the nasty little kicker with FOMO is the introduction of information is always what kicks off FOMO, right?
Oh man,
so
yes.
The fact that we are so incredibly interconnected and we have information available at our fingertips at all times means that literally anything can give you FOMO now. But going back to that age, and I can't believe that we're gonna, sound so old to say things were better back in the 90s, but like legitimately, unless somebody physically told you, handed you an invite to a party, odds are you didn't know that it was happening. Ergo, you have no fear of missing out on something that you have no idea is happening. Fast forward to today, and people promote these social gatherings on social media. And whether there's a formal invite or they're just posting pictures of it afterwards, that immediately hits you like, oh my gosh, did I miss out on something, or am I going to miss out on something incredible? Without having that information, a lot of this probably goes away. Now, I had a very recent brush with this, not necessarily because of FOMO, but just to highlight like my personal reliance on my phone. On the tail end of a business trip, this was my last day. And while I was there, I decided that I was going to restart my phone because some reason, I don't know exactly why, but my phone did not turn itself back on. And it immediately started washing over me in that moment of, yeah, there's a little bit of FOMO involved, but oh my gosh, my boss can't get a hold of me. My client can't get a hold of me. Nobody can get a hold of me right now, and I can't get a hold of them. Oh, by the way, I'm in a city that I've been to maybe 2 or 3 times, so I don't know where I'm going. I'm just going to have to get in my car and drive. Thank goodness I did have a car because I can't call an Uber without a functioning phone. So much of my life is revolving around my ability to be connected to the world. And in some aspects, it feels like a necessary evil. And so then it becomes this careful balancing act of how do you use not only your device, but your connected state? How do you use it responsibly?
Can I ask you further questions?
Yes.
Why are you so connected? Do you feel like you are missing out if you won't be?
And that's the real key, isn't it? Yeah. So I do have some relationships that are purely mediated through online spaces, right? So I have friends on Instagram that I only know through Instagram. We don't have each other's phone numbers. So I do fear missing out on that connection. But like, yeah, in some aspects, it legitimately is that fear of missing out. Like, oh, my friends got engaged. That's great. They live states away, so I would never know unless they post it on Facebook and I get to be a part of that moment. It's there. It's just there.
Right. I don't know. I've only ever been to one wedding, and now you got me wondering if it's because I'm not on Facebook as much as everybody else is.
I feel like when it gets down to the actual wedding, like people that are going to invite you are going to find a way to get in touch with you. But it's that immediate like, oh, I can wish them well without, and I can be in the know immediately and not have to wait for, several weeks down the road. They send me a save the date. I'm like, when the hell did this happen? But
So your fear, it sounds like, is more born out of not missing out on experiences or events, but missing out on keeping, enhancing, whatever it might be, personal connections more than anything else.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a really good way to say it. I am very much a relationship-driven person. And I told my brother long ago that one of the biggest reasons that I maintained a Facebook was that so I could see pictures of my nephews who live on the other side of the country. And then as soon as I said that, I'm like, if I really want that, I can also just like text him and ask him for pictures of my nephews to see what they're doing. But in some aspect, that also feels like an imposition. Hey, can I see my nephews today? Can you send me pictures? And but I mean, if you're just posting them there, then I get to see them immediately. Yeah, that's
I see what you're saying.
Well synthesized and well said.
I think also, going back to when I was talking about my FOMO, I do think that on top of their, like I said, external factors, not just about missing the event, but missing the personal connections that could arise therefrom. Is that even a phrase? Therefrom?
We'll say it is.
It is now.
Yeah.
It is now. I'm literally going to check the internet real quick. See if it's one of those.
Therefore is a word. Therefrom sounds like it should be.
Therefrom it's a thing. Awesome. I know words. That's why I podcast. Me, you speaking in. So we do things.
Education.
Okay, so tell me how to fix this bullshit. Dímelo, chica.
So I think you literally just have to prescribe something that works for you because you are the person that knows how your mind works. The easiest ones that I came across were put timers on social media apps for your phone so you make sure you are limiting your ability to stay and scroll and doom scroll, quite honestly, for hours on end. Shrink phone time just in general by virtue of, like you say, like put my phone on silent, put it on do not disturb. I'm going to say a realistic goal for me is to take a day out of every month, a weekend day, and shut my phone off and just allow myself to be as disconnected as I possibly can and let myself sit within the tension of, yes, there are things going on right now that you may be missing out on. How many of them are truly life-changing for you right now? Now, knowing that that's how I'm proposing the question to myself, somebody's going to end up dying and I'm going to miss out on it. But the point still stands that I think that's probably the healthiest boundary that I can set for myself at this juncture of my life as I attempt to make a change in my phone habits, but definitely social media habits.
You were saying that you fear missing out on personal connections, so you want to remain connected to other people.
Yes.
So if you shut those connections off, then you can't maintain or I can't think of a good word. Not maintain. That sounds bad, but you can't have those relationships. Right. They're not active.
It's harder to pour into a relationship that you have no connection to in the moment. And when when that relationship purely exists through a mediated sense, like social media, then that's it. That's your means of staying connected to the person.
What about your relationship and your connection with yourself?
What is this, therapy?
I'm so sorry, but I hate to do this. Genuinely, because like you had me thinking about it. When and why do I turn off? When and why do I disconnect? It's to maintain me.
Yeah.
It's to focus on me because your relationship with yourself is important, and it's also important to be comfortable being alone with yourself.
I
think a lot of us aren't.
Yeah, that's a skill that going to therapy and the last few years has definitely taught me. Like, you need to be able to be alone and be alone with your thoughts so that you can process them, so you can understand how your brain works, how you react to taking a step back from everything and saying, this is the life that I'm used to. What if I pursue solitude? What if I pursue silence purposefully? And it actually ends up being a spiritual discipline. That's a whole nother conversation that I learned about in seminary as a thing that you should regularly, purposefully pursue. It's an ever revolving door of, I know I need to do these things. How can I attack them in tangible steps? And how can I continue to learn from them so that they can be more of this normal pattern of my life rather than I need to know who posted the latest thirst trap on Instagram.
But then like so much of it is tied around like we're almost, because we want to share all of these experiences on social media, even when we do things like, I'm thinking about like the side adventures that I go on, or like I went to the Springfield doxed. I went to the Springfield Science Museum this past Saturday.
Simpson Springfield, that's the one.
And yeah, wherever state that's in. There's so many Springfields that like you could, I mean, if you type in Springfield Science Center, I'm pretty sure it's the first one that comes up. Still, regardless,
you're wrong.
It was a little drive for me.
The first one that came up is in Missouri.
Awesome, that's the one I went to. Now people are like, well, it's not that one. I went on that little side quest. It took me a little while to drive there. It took me a little while to drive back. I looked at things at a museum. I looked at things at like 2 other museums. The entire time when I was there, I had my phone on me. I don't think I looked at it. I know that I had messages, like Discord was popping off that day, and I just sort of said, okay, because I was doing me.
Yeah.
I was taking time to experience something with myself, because so much of social media is based around sharing your experiences. That's when you post pictures, or most of the time when you post anything anywhere, not you, anybody. It's to share a feeling, thought, or experience. Because what else are we sharing? Feelings, thoughts, experience, for the most part. And most of our thoughts and feelings are born from experiences.
Yes.
So we share our experiences on social media. People who feel like they are alone and not experiencing things don't share anything, and then they feel like they're missing out on all the other experiences people are having. I have my own experiences all by myself, and it's fantastic. If I want to share that with people later, I do. If I don't, then I don't. If I take pictures and I show people, cool. If I forgot to take pictures, if I didn't bring my camera, I did bring my camera and I haven't uploaded the pictures yet to share with people. But when I do, I do. It's just sort of because that experience was for me. I went on that little trip for me. And it's important, and I think people need to know that it's important, that it's a good thing to spend time alone with yourself. It's not necessarily like, oh, what did you do? You didn't do nothing. You didn't hang out with who did you talk to? You didn't talk to nobody. That's fine. That's totally fine. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you absolutely, not like you don't even necessarily need to like set the apps to this and set do not disturb. It's just literally like, just focus on you, which people don't want to do, because we're taught that if we're focusing on us, then we're not having these big experiences that we can share with people. But it's totally okay to spend time with yourself. It's a good thing to spend time with yourself. It's one of the things that should give you a dopamine hit. To share that, sometimes when something happens to me, when I go somewhere, when I experience something, I get a bit of a kick like, haha, that happened to me. I saw that. I went on a walk in Cape Cod and I saw a big 4-foot snake slither out of the grass and into the ocean. And I like sharing that story with other people because that happened to me. And I get excited that only happened to me. Did you see that snake? No, you fucking didn't. I did. I saw that fucking snake.
I didn't see that snake because you didn't take a picture or a video of it, Pete.
Well, it was moving pretty fast and I didn't have my camera out at the time.
Okay.
And I didn't have multiple people with me, and I wasn't live streaming, and I didn't invite my entire friend group and family along with me, and I didn't share that experience with anyone else, because it's okay to share my feelings after the fact, and it's okay to have that just for me. I take a lot of time for me. I used to take a lot of time, and I guess that's where, the other end of what I was saying earlier, where, I needed to be connected. Why did I feel like I needed to be connected? Was that for me, or was that for the other person? A lot of the time, I feel like that was for the other person. Yes, I was getting my dopamine rush of, someone's contacting me, but, I need to be immediately available to them because they need to know what a good friend I am. And I need to be there for them because, or whatever it might be, I'm doing it for them. And now I do it for me. So do things for you, and not even in a selfish way. People go to the gym and that's just for them. And I know people post gym selfies and literally every time they go to the gym.
Different reasons though.
That's a thirst thing. Maybe not always a thirst, but at least to, look at me, I'm at the gym, and if I want to share an experience with you, it's important because it meant something to me, and I'm sharing it with you because I want you to understand how important it was to me. It's not for everybody, and not everything is for everybody. And if it is, I feel like it cheapens it and lessens it and waters it down.
As we're putting a nice, neat bow on my topic for the day, don't succumb to FOMO. If you're having trouble separating yourself from your phone, just recognize that FOMO is playing a much bigger role in this than you probably understand.
The good thing you might be missing out on is time alone with yourself. Oh, I went to that party and it was fucking stupid. I should have just stayed home. I could have got a bottle of wine. Oh, right. Now the world is gone. I'm just wine. I thought of that earlier. I know you said it was whiskey, but that's when that was like the first thing that popped in my head when you said they played Metallica for whiskey. Also, whiskey in a jar. How did we just sail right past that? You said in a barrel, and you didn't even mention that it could have been in a jar, which I know isn't their original song, but still. Bet on yourself more often than you should bet on other people, and you might be pleased to find out that you rock, dude.
Well said. That's well said. I'm happy with the conclusion we came to. Thank you for being my temporary therapist in this.
Literally, back to my joke from earlier. I'm listening, Seattle. Thank you for calling and sharing your thoughts. On to our next caller.
What do you know? Our next caller is one consumable Pete.
I have my notes.
Pete, what do you got for us today?
Sammy, you might know that I tell people a certain thing. You like it so much that you made it a sound clip on your stream.
I know exactly where this is going. Yes.
I like to tell people to grow up or fuck off. We're going to talk about growing up.
So, am I to understand that fucking off is not a part of this?
No, genuinely, not a joke. Next week, we're going to talk about fucking off.
Great. Great.
Or whenever we do it. Whenever we do it next is the next. Now we're going to talk about growing up, and then we're going to talk about fucking off. Actually, fucking off might pertain better to what you said this time, because fucking off is, I wanted to talk about taking time to go on vacations. So it would actually make more sense to talk about it now, but it's too late. I've already made notes, and we're not talking about that. We're talking about growing up.
The choice has been made, but let us remember that you have to do your topic first next episode, so it fits together nicely. We're gonna bookend grow up with fuck off. Anyway, continue.
That's perfect. That's literally perfect. Growing up's hard. So when I talk about growing up, I want to focus on the transition out of the tutorial and into the main game, if you will.
Sure.
You're out of school, you're out of home, maybe. You might be doing it on your own. You've reached that point where it's a free-for-all. All hell let loose. No holds barred. Battle royal. It's to the point where it's that point in life where you're not in school and there's no safety net anymore, really. There might be. They might have safety, but that's whatever. You reach a point in your life where I feel like I've done a lot of growing up. I'm not an adult by any fucking means. I'm a joke.
Only legal standing are you an adult.
Literally because I'm over the age of 18 or 21 or whatever, I'm an adult. Yeah. I am ultimately responsible for myself and sometimes other people, as fucking horrifying as that is. There's a lot of shit that people don't talk about or tell you is coming, and it happens to us all, and it's all part of the shared experience, and nobody wants to do it because it sucks, and nobody wants to talk about it because it's not great. And it's very personal for most people. So I'm going to try to like create the broadest of strokes possible and touch upon some more personal things, but talk about growing up in like a more broad sense.
Okay, hit me. I'm ready for it.
Okay. So I feel like when you reach a point, you have to like determine a few things. Who are you? Who is my family? Who are my friends? What the fuck am I doing?
Who is your daddy? What does he do?
Like for real, genuinely. Figuring out at the top, who am I? I don't know who I am. I don't have a fucking clue. I'm 33 years old. That's a fact. My name is Peter. That is also a written fact, and maybe not even true.
The world may never know.
But figuring out who you are, I think, is an important part of the growing up process. So it's not just, I don't know if it was like later on for me, or if I just like let the world fly by me and I didn't have enough time to figure things out, or you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's just, that's a daily thing. Not daily, I'd say. Not something that I like stop and it's like, who am I today? But like developing and figuring out like who you want to be in the world, I think is important and ongoing, and not something that you even necessarily come to a final conclusion on. And I think you can kind of understand the whole finding who you are thing.
Really? There's a lot of context missing for people that aren't watching this stream. Let's just put it that way. Let me go ahead and just, we'll throw this out for anybody that doesn't know me. I am transgender. I've started my transition recently. I have a very deep voice. These are things that are going to change. I live in a state where being trans is not a terribly accepted thing, nor is it a terribly safe thing. Anyway, moving on, back to Pete.
But you took the time which is important. And and you will continue, I'm sure, to take the time to determine who you are. And I've taken the time to determine who I am. I don't know. I have no idea. It's not important. It is important. It's not important to come to a conclusion immediately or even at all. But it is important to maintain an idea of who am I? Who do I want to be? How do the people around me view me? Am I a nuisance? Am I a good guy? Am I a bad guy? Am I helpful? Am I hurtful? Am I a pain in the ass? Do people want to be around me? Do people not want to be around me? All of those things on top of whatever other factors there might be, which leads into things like, I'm going to like skip just ahead about who you are. When you're a kid, you develop an idea of who you are. I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be this. I think this way, and that's how I'm always going to think. I'm a gamer. I literally, yeah, exactly. I like video games. I can't imagine a time where I'll not play video games for 6 hours a day.
I won't speak for you. I know you have specifically asked me to stop speaking for you, but I can say with confidence that 15-year-old me would not recognize 35-year-old me. So these ideas that I had as a child, as a teenager, hell, even as a 25-year-old, maybe they end up panning out, but in many cases they do not.
And I feel like an important part of growing up and figuring out who you are is reconciling that the ideas that you had of who you were when you were a kid might clash with the ideas of who you want to be as an adult. And that's totally fine.
Yes.
It's okay. I think nobody tells you that. Nobody ever fucking tells you that. You think of the world one way and you think of yourself one way when you're a kid. And then when you grow up, it's okay to adjust how you view yourself. It's because you fucking have to. You literally have to. You cannot keep your child mindset, because if you keep your child mindset, you won't, what do we say? You can grow up or you can fuck off. Guess what you're going to have to do? And you're going to have to do it real fucking quick. You're going to have to fuck right off if you can't. Like, you have to reach a point where, and it's tough. It was tough for me because like I had certain like, not in like any sort of like bad prejudice kind of sense, but you have certain preconceived notions of who you want to be and how the world is supposed to work. I would never smoke weed. That's for potheads. People who smoke pot every day, there must be something wrong with them. Yeah, there's a lot wrong with me, dude. Relax. Fuck off, you little shit. Like, what the? Who don't know me? You don't fucking know me. Like, who are you? It's that. It's being you. It's okay to not like who you were as a kid as well. Like some people, I think I was a perfectly okay kid. I didn't get in too much trouble, like here and there. Like I said dumb shit when I was a kid. Who didn't? Whatever it might be. I said a lot of dumb shit.
You still say dumb shit now. That doesn't change.
I still say a lot of dumb shit. What was I saying earlier today? Earlier in the podcast. I don't want to make any bad jokes because I don't want people not to like me. And then people are automatically like, he's racist and a bigot. And I was like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Exactly. Stuff like that. It's okay to, you have to reconcile that at some point, the who you were and who you want to be, and there will likely be a clash, and it's good. It's probably a good thing that the idea of who you wanted to be when you were a kid doesn't line up with the ideas of who you want to be as an adult. I don't know really what I wanted to do when I was a kid. I didn't really know who I wanted, because that's not really something that I ever considered. What am I going to do when I grow up? I don't know. Make a lot of money. Doing what? I don't know. Making a lot of money is what I'm going to do. Like, that's what you think when you're a kid. It doesn't matter. It's like, what am I going to do to make a lot of money, and who am I going to be as an adult? It's like, I'm going to work hard at the job that I have. Whatever I get paid to do, I'm just going to work hard doing it. And like, that's where I am now. You know what I mean? And it's important to adjust that. I think was that something that you experienced?
Constantly. And some of it being my own expectations about myself in a rebellious sense. So I, without trying to make this sound too arrogant and cocky, like, my family back home has a name for itself, right? My dad is well known in the city. He was he still is a doctor, but he practiced a certain kind of medicine for 26 years. And he was extremely well known in the city. In the church where we grew up, he was extremely well known. Like, so many people went to go visit him. So everybody knew my dad's name. Everybody knew my mom's name. I am the third of 4 kids. Okay. And so there is this expectation almost, and it never came from my parents. I'm very thankful for my parents, because they never put this on us. They said, be whoever you want to be. Choose what you want to do with your life. We will support you as long as you're not like doing something illegal.
Fair.
But it came from other sources. And so every time that I would go out, as I'm getting older, I'm becoming a teenager, I can drive myself around and I'm running into these people that I just kind of know because they know my dad. Like, you're Dr. Armstrong's kid. Like,
Doxed.
yeah, right. Are you gonna follow in? Are you gonna follow in your dad's footsteps? I'm like, I wasn't planning on it. Oh, but you'd make such a good doctor. I don't want to be a doctor. Yeah, but you'd be so good at it. You could carry on the family. For what purpose? Like, I don't want to do that. And so this weird cultural pressure that was put on me, and undoubtedly my other 3 siblings, it persisted. And wouldn't you know it, every single one of my siblings ended up working in the medical profession somehow, except me. Like, brother is a doctor, sister is an EMT, brother like runs medical groups, sister-in-law is a nurse, brother-in-law is an EMT firefighter or something, or like, it all just came full circle, and I'm sitting here as kind of the black sheep of the family. And I have to admit that at some point it was pure rebellion that I said, I don't want to be this because everybody else wants me to be that. So that was step 1. Step 2 was figuring out who the hell I actually wanted to be. That was the real hard part.
True. Okay, that's fair. When you were a kid, did you find yourself just saying like, yeah, sure, yeah, oh yeah, I want to be a doctor like my dad, yeah?
Oh, I never
once.
Never did. Like, I didn't really buy into anything that my parents did as something that I wanted to do. I was still dreaming about playing professional sports at that age, but you know, I grew up to I grew up to not only be not big enough to play any professional sport, I also grew up to be transgender, so like they're never gonna let me in sport anyway. Ooh, we got a little too political here. Maybe I'll cut that. But I was one of those kids that genuinely didn't know what I wanted to do outside of these pipe dreams of I want to be an athlete, I want to be an astronaut, I want to do all these other things. It took a while to come to that realization of what I actually wanted life to be. Yeah, it was a strange childhood in that aspect.
I'm glad you also mentioned your family, because my next point among growing up is learning and figuring out who your family members are as people. Because obviously when you're a kid, I don't have any older siblings. I have older cousins, but I didn't really like hang out with them growing up too much. So like I didn't have a lot of experience with older kids. But so I didn't have like any changing perspective on people who are slightly older than me, but I do have changing perspective on the adults that I know in my life, namely my parents. And as you grow up, usually around the time that you're a teenager, but especially around the time that you become financially independent and more free and responsible for yourself, you kind of start to determine who your parents are as people.
Yeah. Oh, it's frightening too, isn't it?
It's yeah. So I think I don't know if people take the time to realize like, oh, I think some people just become friends with their parents. You know what I mean? Like they go from like, oh, I got from like my 20s into my 30s, and then like, I don't know, I hang out with my mom on the weekends. We like go for breakfast on Sundays, and we go to the movies every now and again, and I go back to my apartment and she does her thing, and we call each other up and talk, and she gossips to me. And it's like, and it's almost gone from a mom to a friend. You know what I mean? And similarly, like with dads, it's like, oh, we went from like, you need to do this, and this to, oh, we're going to go do these things together. Or, oh, what are you doing this weekend? Do you want to come fish? Or whatever it might be. You start like doing things with your parents as though they are friends.
Yes.
And while you're doing things like that with your parents, you start to discover who they are as people. And then you just start to determine whether or not you like your family, which is a really fucking, and again, something that they don't tell you is coming, but it happens, I think, and again, I think people that don't do this, they fuck off. But it does get to a point where you realize like, oh, my parents are people. All of the adults that I know are real people. Like we do it with teachers too. Like when a teacher like, and I remember like when my parents would make a joke about like smoking pot, it's like, oh, do you know what that is? Like, of course, they're fucking bigger potheads than we are. Like they were, like, are you kidding me? Like, holy shit, they all smoked weed. I remember like discovering that, like, all of our parents smoked weed. What? Oh my God. Again, I don't know why I keep going back to weed, but like, I remember that was a thing to discover, like, oh my God, all of our parents were big pot. My parents were huge potheads. My mom eventually told me, she's like, I was big pothead. Me and your father smoked a lot of weed, Peter. And I'm like, when did you stop? She's like, when we had you. I'm like, oh, okay, fair.
Apple
So,
tree.
leave me alone. It's just one of those things that, like, while you are growing up and dealing with your parents, you start to determine, like, oh, I might like these aspects of them, but like sometimes they do things that it's like, oh no, if you weren't my family member, I wouldn't want to talk to you right now.
I feel like a healthy, not even family dynamic, just a healthy relationship dynamic, regardless of who the person is to you, is having the ability to address those things that you don't necessarily like about the person so that you can remain in relationship, right? So I love my family dearly. I don't necessarily like them all the time. I don't like everything that they do. I don't like everything that they say. Whatever, we move on. I have the relationship with my parents and with my siblings at this point in life where I can just say, here's where I am in life. I recognize that we're going to disagree on some things. As long as we can have productive conversation about it and we can disagree graciously, we're going to be fine. Our relationship is going to continue on. If we reach kind of that impasse where one or both of us is going to be stubborn and not want to do that, that's probably where the relationship starts to break down. But you're absolutely right. Like when you're a kid, you view your parents as superheroes. They can do no wrong. Once you become older, you realize, my parents are essentially me with different life lessons that they learned, and they are just as infallible a human as I am. So what are the weird things that make them tick? What are the weird things that I may not like about them as I am now an adult and they are potentially towards the end of their life? And to what extent do these things matter, right? It's such a weird dynamic to go through as you are growing up.
Yes. And it's, again, it's not, you kind of know, you have like the feeling in the back of your head, it's like, oh, I'm gonna have to deal with something like that at some point. But like nobody tells you it's coming. It's not like told you. It's nothing important. Like, oh yeah, you gotta get your license and you gotta grow up. But like all these like important, again, emotional beats. We've mentioned those before. The things that stick with you. And then like similarly to that, like nobody tells you that like those same exact older loved ones that you look up to, that are infallible, that are older than you, that are there and have been there forever, won't be.
Yeah.
They are fallible. They may get sick. Their bodies may break down. They won't be able to do the things that they used to. Their minds won't be as sharp as they used to be. Their bodies can't do the things that they used to do. They won't necessarily sometimes be the people they used to be when you were growing up with them. And that's okay. That's just, they're growing up too. They are still growing up. And we're just along for the ride with them and they're along for the ride with us at that point. But it's just sort of like it's just one of those things, like nobody emotionally prepares you for it. Nobody can. It's not even something that you can emotionally prepare yourself for. You can think about it like, oh man, I don't want my parents to go. But like one day it'll happen and it's going to suck. It's still going to suck really bad. It's just sort of there. It's just, and then as those things start to develop, you have to like tackle those growing up feelings of like, how do I view a sick parent, or how do I reconcile like my buddy dealt with this 15 years ago now. When we were in our late teens, his father got sick and then eventually passed away. And then because he was dealing with a lot of things having to do with growing up, he wasn't able to deal with those things with his father, so then he had to deal with those things on his own. And I'm lucky that I still have both of my parents, so that, and I also don't feel like I have a lot of things that I have to like deal with them. I've done all the yelling I feel like I've had to do, and when it comes to growing up, when you discover it's like who your parents are and you don't necessarily like it, and how could you do this? Why would you say that? Like exactly like you said, and like all the yelling in the world doesn't change anything. It just leads you to a point where, oh, this is who they are. This is what has happened. And I'll still be sad when they go. And nobody told me any of these things.
Yep.
It's bullshit. Nobody tells you how to grow up. They don't want to. Nobody's specifically, even parents, like nobody's going to tell you. And it's almost good if your parents don't tell you how to grow up. But you should have that freedom to develop like who you are as a person on your own. To take that time to not necessarily go to that party, to take that time to stay at home and figure out who you are or who you want to be, or take the time to reflect on have I spoken to my family this week? Maybe I should reach out to them oh, but they haven't reached out to me. Oh, well, I'll take the initiative this time. It's okay. You know what I mean? That's all part of like the who I want to be and like the growing up thing.
In that aspect, I start to like, I don't have kids. I'm not even in a relationship at this point, but I'm starting to empathize so much more with my parents, but also my brother and sister-in-law who have 2 kids, because holy cow, how would I want to try to attempt to raise kids in today's society? It feels like an impossible task, and yet it has been thrust upon these 2 individuals, and they're going to do the absolute best with what they have been given. And in 30 years' time, both of my nephews might be having this exact conversation in reference to my brother, my sister-in-law, their parents, about how they would have done things differently and how they may not necessarily like everything about their parents. The cycle continues. And I think at the end of the day, everybody is just trying their very hardest to not screw it up, right? Especially for parents. Like, how do you raise a kid? I don't know. They don't actually make a book about it. And if they do, that author probably needs to not write books anymore, because there is no one size fits all mentality for raising kids. It seems to be an impossible task. And I have the utmost respect for my parents, for anybody who chooses to bring children into the world these days. You're in for a very, very long, often thankless job.
No, the idea of someone else, me being responsible for someone else's growing up, is a whole separate topic that I don't even think I can discuss at this point in time, because I don't have that experience personally as well. So holy shit, that's terrifying to even consider. Oh God. I've said before that like we are the products, not necessarily to you, just to friends in general. I've said before that, and I think ultimately this is too narrow-minded and probably pessimistic, that we are the products of our parents' mistakes. And yes, but then also no, not entirely, because like we are still like our own people with our own experiences, and a lot of who we are is made up of those experiences, and a lot of like the way that we think ends up being born of the experiences that we have and whatever it might be. But a lot of who we are, some of who we are at the very minimum, is based on the mistakes our parents made. At least at least a little bit. And I think growing up is learning how to recognize, forgive if necessary, and overcome those mistakes. Like, okay, that's maybe not how they should have done things. Could they have done it better? Yes. What would I have done? I don't fucking know. So what has happened. And beyond that, there are people who might grow up to find like, oh, I need to separate myself from my family, and my parents are horrible individuals and they should have never had children, and I should not be their child and I need to leave. And like that's separate. Like that is like beyond growing up. That's like that's like a life thing. That's
so much dysfunction. There are so many issues to get to before that.
But like that happens, that exists in the world. You know what I mean? We all have shared experiences. And then we all have our individual experiences, and it's our individual experiences that ultimately make up who we are as individuals. But we can't necessarily like blame parents on the problems that we have, because you are still you. And let's say at this point in our conversation, we have learned who we are. We have learned who our parents are, and now we have friends. Who are these friends that you'll be hanging out with this weekend, Sammy? Who are these friends? So I have friends. You have friends, Sammy? I'm sure you got a few of them.
We've talked about them. I do. I mean, I don't know. Maybe everybody's just blowing smoke up my ass, but I like to feel like I have friends.
I know that you've experienced what I'm about to touch upon because we've discussed your experiences with the things that I'm about to touch upon.
Great.
But at some point, especially as we determine who we want to be, and we reconcile who we were with who we want to be now, we realize that we may still have friends, and there may be people in our lives overall who may have been around when we were children. And we made friends with those people when we were children because we were a certain way when we were children, and they were a certain way when they were children. And now we've all grown up, we are growing up, I should say. It's not an end point. We are actively, continually growing up. We feel the things we want to feel. We say the things we want to say, as individuals should. We've all shared our experiences in the shared experience, which what makes us relatable to each other, and then our individual experiences start to bring us apart. Not that, again, similarly, it's our individual experiences who make us who we are, but it's I think this way and my friend thinks that way, and we've been friends for 20 years, and we used to agree upon video games and alien pictures and goofy shit, and now we disagree heavily upon gun ownership and transgender rights, and holy shit, that's a lot more hefty than what it used to be. So that is also an important factor of reaching that point. And I think it's an important thing that everybody should do, or you can fuck off, is that you have to, I think, like, sit down with yourself or even with your friends. Sit down and think about, like, is this friendship that I may have cultivated and developed when I was a child that still is maintained these days, is this friendship reflective and indicative of who I am now and who I want to continue to be? And I do think that, like, ultimately, we've talked about this earlier. Relationships are important. Relationships are extremely important. I think relationships partially make up who we are as people. Your relationships help determine what you're going to do. And if you're making relationships with bad people and doing bad things, then you might be a bad dude. And when I say, like, I'm talking about, like, crooked shit, like robberies and shit. That's what I mean. None of my friends commit robberies, thankfully. None of my friends are crooked dudes, as I said. Crooks, robbers. But I have found that, like, friends that I've had for years, friends that I knew in high school, friends that I knew even from before that, and I've talked with you about this, my viewpoints are differing from theirs, which is not cause to terminate a friendship by any means. But I guess you have to ask yourself, at what point do you make that distinction of, okay, their thoughts and beliefs are far enough beyond mine that I feel like I can no longer relate to this person? Have you had to do that with anybody that you were friends with previously?
Yes, very recently, in fact.
I shouldn't say previously because that sounds like it's a loaded question. I should say that you were previously friends with, that you've already cut off, I imagine. Have you had to do that with anybody?
I thought you were going, I shouldn't say previously because everything that's happened to us has happened to us previously. But yes. Yeah. So a lot of that has happened specifically since coming out and finding out how some of my lifelong friends really feel, not necessarily about me as an individual, but how they feel about the transgender community and their level of exposure to the transgender community. And there have been some that it's been an easy choice, right? Like, I wasn't the biggest fan of them in the first place, and that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. That's an easy one. Then there are some of the more difficult ones that are friendships that I genuinely treasure, and they have only ever known a particular version of me, and they are going to hold on to that. The friends that will engage with me on a level of, let's talk about this. I want you to try to throw aside what you think you know about transgender people. I want to talk about me and how you feel about not those people. I don't want to know how you feel about the transgender celebrity, the people on Twitter. I want to know how you feel about me as an individual. And I want you to talk to me about the issue as if I'm the only person on earth that is going through this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that will actually engage with me on that, those are the people that, even if we end up disagreeing, and I have a couple in mind that we ultimately end up disagreeing, the relationship is still solid enough that I want to continue being in relationship with them. That this is going to be a big thing that we disagree on. And yeah, maybe that becomes a larger sticking point for me down the road because it is a legitimate identity issue. It's not a politics issue. It's not a sports team issue. It's me. It's my life. But the people that are willing to engage with me on that level, those are the ones that make it so much more difficult for me to find that line of where do I cut this relationship off? Because I do see the benefit to it, but I can also peer into my crystal ball into the future and say there likely will come a day where this is no longer something that can be avoided. We're going to have this discussion. And if we end up disagreeing at that point, maybe that's when the relationship ends. So maybe I'm just kicking the can down the road in this aspect, But I mean, it almost seems like it's a weekly occurrence for me that somebody else comes along and just says, so I want to talk to you about this whole transgender thing. I'm like, oh, great. Here we go again.
Oh,
But it's a good process to go through because I'm finding out truly who the best people to surround myself with are, and not make sure that those people are purely an echo chamber, because I don't want to exist in that kind of space either. That's a different topic of discussion. But you're right. Like it is something that is inevitably going to happen, and it's uncomfortable when it does happen, but nobody prepares you for it. So you just got to do the best that you can with the opportunity you're given in the moment.
and then I'm loving that I'm doing this.
Are we back
I
to
keep
therapy,
doing it
Pete?
too. No, yes, kind of. Do you think that we maintain these relationships because of FOMO?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Right?
In some aspects, yes.
Yeah, like at least a little.
At least a little bit, because you yearn for the days when the disagreement, the disparity, the dissonance wasn't there. You want to go back
It's
to
like,
that.
we were great friends.
Exactly. I can think of so many of my friends, not even related to that specific topic of me coming out, but just I think back to the friends that I had in middle school and in high school, and like maybe we keep in touch purely via Facebook and we wish each other happy birthday. And like, yeah, there's part of me that says, I wish I could go back to when we were 16 and we were playing Halo in my parents' house and we were up until 2 a.m. Those were the golden days for us because we didn't realize how incredibly flawed we were as individuals. Me and you, not just you. So maybe you're trying to go backwards in time instead of fearing missing out what might happen in the future. But there's definitely some of that fear of what you will lose from the relationship by virtue of saying, I need to create a boundary for myself.
And then that leads me to the thought of maybe the only reason that we hang around with those people is to remind ourselves of those very happy previous experiences that we had with those, like you said, before we all determined that we were flawed individuals. It's like, I don't know.
It's possible. I think that's where I would push back on you, at least for me and my experience. As an adult, my desire is to know and to be known, not for who I was, but for who I am, warts and all, right? So I don't want somebody who knew me at 5, 15, 25 to approach me with the same relationship dynamic from then that they do today at 35. I want them to know me as who I am right here and now. We can reminisce about the past and we can wish that those days were still upon us, but we can also enjoy the opportunity for a relationship that we have in the here and now and see each other and know each other for who they really are. I think that's the better part for me.
Now, you saying that has led me to question myself.
Good.
Am I missing out? No, you're absolutely right. Am I missing out on who people may be now because they aren't who they used to be? That's maybe something that I have to consider now.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad we had this conversation.
One of the weirdest things that I experienced in like my college years was my friends getting married and having kids before 25.
Wow.
Yeah, it's part of the culture that I grew up in, but they were no longer the person that I once knew. How do I love them and how do I pursue a relationship with them when they are several life stages, quote unquote, ahead of me? And how can am I missing out on who they are now because they are a married father or mother of several kids instead of the buddy that I used to drink shit beer with before a football game in college, right?
And you know what? On the other side of that coin, I want to talk about a relationship that I have with a friend from high school that has only gotten better.
Great. Let's hear it.
I have a friend who I had classes with him all 4 years of high school. We were pretty decent friends. I slept over his house once or twice. I don't think he ever slept over my house. That's like when you're a kid, that's like I slept over his house. That's like the key.
Yes, that's the friendship determining factor. Did you have a sleepover? You were best friends if so.
Then we're very good friends. Right, exactly. So like I think at the time, like, I don't know if I like considered us to be like very good friends when I was in high school. I can't really remember how like I viewed our relationship when we were in high school. I think he was just another person that I knew and related with, and I thought he was goofy and I liked hanging out with him. And we went to different colleges. He went to college like an hour or so away, and then after college he moved an hour or so away. So he's always been like further away from me, and just we didn't talk too much during college. And then we started chatting again after college, And where we are now is he has his own house. He's gotten married. He has a kid. And I went and hung out with him. Oh, I'm trying to think of when I last saw him. Oh, about a year ago, actually. We went and played disc golf before I went on vacation.
Nice.
About a year ago. So that was cool. Yeah. Actually, in the intervening time, I hate to bring it up again, but we had never smoked weed in high school. I didn't smoke weed in high school. I didn't really start smoking weed until after college. He also started smoking weed medicinally after college because it helped him a lot. So when we would hang out now, more recently, we would get together and smoke weed, which is not something that we had done previously. The last few times we hung out, we went to an art gallery. We went to a brewery. We went and got a great dinner at a nearby bar. We hoofed it back to his house. Then we smoked a bunch of weed. And we just sat there and just chatted for, I think, like 4 or 5 hours. We just went on, just on and on and on. And I was like, and at one point I was like, damn it, I'm so glad I have maintained this relationship, because this dude's such a great guy and he's doing so great for himself. And now he's a dad and he's fully embracing dad life and he loves his daughter, and his wife's gone back to work and he works from home part-time. So he's very much like in dad mode and he loves it. And like, I'm almost proud to like see a friend of mine like do this, and like not just like you said, it almost feels like married and kids before 25. Like, he's the same age as me. He's 33 and he just had his first kid. You know what I mean? So like, he's taken the time to like work his way into this position. He didn't rush into anything. I don't know. I feel like I take my time through life, and I can relate to him in that I feel like he's also kind of taking a bit of time through his life, which is good. You don't have to rush through anything. And if you want to, if you know what you're doing, if you're that sure of yourself, awesome. That's great. But that is a relationship that I had to look at and say, like, I'm so glad that I'm still friends with this friend, because this is a good relationship to have. Regardless of any experiences that we could just sit and bullshit. I was messaging with him earlier today. I was talking to him about how I didn't get Savannah Banana tickets, and I was upset about no Savannah Banana tickets. And then he sent me a picture of his daughter, and then we were just going back and forth about, I think we started talking about baseball. So, and I was saying to him, I'm going to be going to Maine again soon. Doxed. Do you want to stop and play disc golf with you all along the way? So we'll see how that develops. So I don't want to just say that like all of the friendships that you have when you're a kid suck, because you don't know who you are, and then you find out who you are, and oh no, why am I friends with this person? That's not always the case. You can grow up with friends, and you determine that you are still basically the same people that you were, and you like most of the same aspects that you used to like, and oh, you're a bit of a dickhead, but you always were a bit of a dickhead anyway, so that is what it is. You know what I mean? So it's not all doom and gloom out there in listener land, in the WWE universe. All you listeners in the WWE universe, it's not all doom and gloom. It does get better. It's not. There are important relationships that you can make when you're a kid that exist when you're an adult. So I don't want to just completely trample over those.
I 100% agree with that. One of my longest standing friends, I met him when we were probably 6-7 years old, and like we've gone in waves where we lose touch for a little bit. We both ended up moving several times across the country, but we still maintain that relationship. And like the once a year that we get to physically be with each other in person, it's great. It's like things never, like no time had actually passed, but we get to debrief and everything. And it's wonderful. Mm-hmm. Like it's probably on the lower percentage of those kind of relationships that get to persist throughout your life. But man, when they stick, they're wonderful.
It is, and it's good to see, like, it's good to maintain relationships and to see people around you succeed, and who might have at least a bit of an idea of what they're doing in life, because then, which leads to my next point, it gives you an idea of what you are fucking doing in your life. What am I doing in my life? I don't fucking know, and that's okay. It's okay to not know. It's okay to just maintain and get by, but to still have like a focus on the future, whether or not that future is concrete, set in stone. I know exactly what I'm going to do, or whether or not that future is a bit more open-ended. I think that you reach a point where you kind of got to figure out, what the fuck am I doing? And that kind of goes along with, who do I want to be? How do I want to be seen by the world? Who are my friends? Who is my family? And then, what am I doing? What am I doing here? And what can I do? Because a lot of people, there are levels of freedom that people attain from their family, from their loved ones, whatever it might be. I'm kind of basing this growing up thought process on you live with your family and now you are trying to do it. You know what I mean? Let's say you have that freedom and you can do whatever you want. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna sit on your fucking ass and play video games all day? Are you just gonna sit there and smoke a fucking bunch of weed and do nothing? Are you gonna be the kind of person that works hard and takes care of their family and helps out their loved ones? Or it's actually crazy how open-ended the world could be. Obviously, society kind of tricks us into being decent people, fuckers. People judge us if we're bad. How dare they? I mentioned it earlier. You could be a robber and a crook if you wanted to. That never crossed my mind. I say it like it did. It did not. But it's important to realize that you have that freedom, that you can say to yourself, every now and again, and this might be like a weird like Don Draper Mad Men thing, but every now and again, I remind myself that because I work from home, I can just get in my car and leave. I don't have any kids. I have familial responsibilities, but things wouldn't completely fall apart if I were to disappear physically. If I could still like pull strings from behind the scenes, just not physically right here, I can still do it. The rent can be paid from other places. You know what I mean? I don't have to physically be right here. You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. So, but like every now and again, the thought pops in my head that like I can get in my car and go. I could just go across the country if I wanted to. I have the money, I have the capabilities, and I have the time if I wanted to. Is that responsible? Probably not. Could I? Yeah, I fucking could. And that I've mentioned before, I'll mention it here. I think that being an adult, quote unquote adult, means that you alone are mostly responsible for solely, I'll say it. You alone are solely responsible for your tomorrow. There may be other factors. You may have to like, oh, I'm waiting on an answer from this person about this thing. That's anything. That's whatever. That doesn't mean that you aren't free or your own individual. But I think that being an adult and means that you are responsible for yourself for tomorrow. Like who's buying my food? I am. Who's paying my bills? I am. Who's taking me to the places I need to? Me. Who's responsible for me? Me. I am. Does that make me an adult? I fucking think it does. If you're also further responsible for other people, then, oh yeah, big adult time. Holy shit. Like children? Oh my God, you basically have to be, oh, right? Oh, fucking, too many kids having kids in this world. That's a separate story. Grow up or fuck off. Am I right?
You're right.
And sometimes people have kids and they have to figure that out real fucking quick, Sammy. I remember my buddy told me when we were in high school, he's like, I wake up in the morning and I drink a coffee while reading the newspaper and smoking a cigarette. I think I'm an adult now. And I was like, I don't think so. You're not paying any bills in your parents' house, bro. Like you're not close.
Yeah. Legal standing, only adult.
Your dad is putting gas in your car. Like you're not. He wasn't even 18 at the time. He was 17.
Oh, come
wasn't even legally.
Get out of
yeah,
here.
right. So do you ever want to leave? Do you ever want to just fuck off, Sammy?
Yes.
No, but like, have you recognized the fact that you are responsible for you? And I shouldn't call it a pressure because it's not a pressure. I think it's a freedom to be responsible for me. I think being responsible for me means that I'm free to be responsible for me, but it also means that I'm free to not. Have you realized this? Have you taken the time to like take stock in yourself and to not fuck off Don Draper style?
Yes. So you know a lot of the story of the last year or so of my life and just how chaotic and depressing it actually got. And there's so much that happened during that year where I'm like, yeah, it would be so much easier to just say, nope, I'm done. I'm going to go somewhere else. I don't know where I'm going. I'm going somewhere else. I'm going to start over. I'm going to find a way. And it's just, I'm glad that I chose to not give in to those intrusive feelings because there is a certain level of satisfaction that comes with fulfilling the responsibility of being an adult. And I feel like the dirty little secret that nobody wants to admit to is that so few people actually know what the hell they're doing.
No.
You can say that you have it all together, all you want, but I'm sorry, you don't. I know so many people who, as I mentioned earlier, got married, had kids before they were 25. Some of them ended up divorced. It's a life they thought they wanted, and they figured out that they didn't. And so now they are responsible for moving forward in light of the choices that they made.
Right.
I like very many people, didn't know what I wanted to do right out of college. I bounced around several jobs before I finally found something that I felt I could give myself to. And that thing ended up being terrible for my mental health. So we got to figure it out again. It's part of the life cycle. And you're right. There's so much in life that we are utterly out of control over. But the things that you can have some semblance of control over, the things that you can be responsible for, that's adulthood, baby. And you just got to do whatever the hell you can. And it all ties into this. Who do I want to be? Do I want to be somebody who gives up and takes the easy way out? No. Okay. So put in the hard work now to create the life for yourself that you want to. Do I want to be that person? Great. Are you prepared for everything that may come as a result of it? If you are, keep on going forward. But continue to have that conversation with yourself and know that, yep, this is still where I want to go in life, and I am ready to deal with the consequences, good, bad, or indifferent, as they come.
And to synthesize that, basically, what are people deciding between? They're deciding between growing up and fucking off.
Yep.
And a lot of people, thankfully, I do think a lot of people do decide to grow up because you have to. You fucking have to. A lot of people do have to, like, oh shit, I have to be responsible for, and there's another person I have to be responsible for, and oh, I might have a safety net, but that safety net might not be there forever, and oh no, that safety net is gone, and it's time. Now's the time. A lot of people are thrust into it. A lot of people, like you said, find themselves in that life, and it's, oh no, and then it is kind of cyclical, where it's like, you almost have to do it again, where it's like, okay, who am I now? Who do I want to be? Who are my friends? What is the life that I'm living? What the fuck am I doing? And then you have to reassess and figure things out. And I did that a couple of years ago. Not in a bad way, ultimately. It was all good. But the thing that led to it was bad. But the old outcome was all good. So it's important to do.
It's necessary.
It is. And it's it's one of the things they don't fucking tell you about. It's not handed to, nothing's ever handed to you, of course. And I keep like, oh, nobody ever told me this. No, I'm not saying it in like a kind of way. I'm saying it in just like a, well, what do you know kind of way. Like, it's one of those, like, your back's going to hurt a lot, all the time. You're going to reach a point in your life where your back hurts, where you wake up in the morning and your back hurts and you think to yourself, what did I do yesterday? What the hell? Why does my fucking back hurt? And it's probably because you slept funny. But sleeping is something that you have to do, and you can't choose how you're oriented while you're sleeping. But your back's gonna fucking hurt. Accept it. Grow with it. It's who you are now. Genuinely do stretches. Stretch, people. Fucking stretch. Build your core strength and stretch. People have back pain because they have bad core strength. Because we don't work our cores as people. Because we don't need to on a daily basis. Which is fine. Do some yard work. I'm kidding. I don't do any yard work. They don't tell you that your back's going to hurt all the time. And they don't tell you that you're not going to like the things that you used to like. But what they don't tell you on top of that is that you're going to find new things to like. And your back might hurt today, but it's not going to hurt tomorrow. And you said something that like led to like a whole new thought process for me in this like growing up thing. And it's that you might grow up once, but then you might have to do it again. You might have to do it again. You might have to do it again. And it's not growing up. It's just living life. And it's that life is cyclical. It's all happening again. Your favorite gum is coming back into style. Everything
are a thing again somehow. That's true, by the way.
No, literally, like, what the hell are we doing? I thought it was skinny jeans. What the hell happened to skinny jeans?
Oh no, skinny jeans are out. Like, I'm getting advertisements for bell-bottom leggings now.
Well, what?
Yeah.
Those are yoga pants.
I'm not saying I understand it. I'm not saying I condone it. I'm just saying it's a thing that's happening. So strap in.
I don't like it. But you don't like the things that you used to. I don't like playing video games for 6 hours a day. I get bored with it. And that used to be like something that like I used to hold dear. It's like, this is, I could never see myself not playing video games. I love playing video games. I do it all the time. I do it with my friends. It's such a good thing to do. And it helps me. No, I can't do it anymore. There are weeks, months where I'll go without playing any video games at all. I'll pop in on a video game and play it for maybe an hour, and then I'll pop it off, and I'll feel satisfied, and that's okay, because then you find new things that you can like. And then maybe your back hurts today, but it's not going to hurt tomorrow. Maybe you'll stretch the day after that, and then you'll keep doing stretches, and I've built up my core strength, and now I don't feel so bad anymore. That's what I did. Shout out to physical therapy. But that whole cyclical thing, sometimes you just got to do it again. Sometimes you do it as a kid. I'm going to be this when I grow up. This is who I am. And then you have to, oh, wait, no, that was wrong. this is who I actually am. This is who I have to be. This is who I've grown up to become. And then maybe 10, 15 years later, you're doing it again. Oh, my situation has changed. This is where I work now. These are the people who I speak with now. These are the things that I do now. And this is who I am now. And then you do it again. And then you just kind of keep doing it, which kind of goes back to, I think I told you the story, that I was standing on the beach in Cape Cod docks, watching the sunset and like thinking about like the cyclical nature of life. And I was on vacation during that little adventure. What I realized is that, again, I'm literally watching the waves come in and out, which is something that like occurs constantly, nonstop, forever. And I was watching the sunset. It doesn't matter. It will continue forever. Back and forth and in and out. And the sun was setting. And I'm thinking to myself, well, tomorrow the sun's going to come back up. And it's going to do that every day until it expands and consumes the universe. That's separate. I guess ultimately, what I discovered on that day has led me to discover something new today. And it's that you do this, you do all of this growing up. Who am I? Hello, world. Who am I? Who is my family? Who are my friends? What the fuck am I doing? How come nobody told me that this was going to be happening to me? You do that once. 5, 10, 15 years later, you're probably doing it again. The sun's coming back up. We're figuring out who we are again. And ultimately, it's not that it's one era, into the next sunrise, into the next sunset. It's every day. Because the sun keeps coming up and down. And we continually, daily, figure out who we are and who our family is and who our friends are and what the fuck we're doing. So I did it. I did the thing. I did the TED Talk. I've reached a bit of a conclusion. Do you have anything you'd like to add, Sammy? I know you do.
Honestly, I only have one thing that I want to add to that, and it's that as much as we sit here and we wish that somebody would prepare us properly for all these things, nobody can, because their life isn't ours, their experience isn't ours, and people are ultimately going to speak from their experience. There are very few professionals that can speak to us in sweeping terms and say, generally, this is how human beings function and exist, and they are called therapists. Odds are you are not one of those. Odds are most of the people you relate to are not one of those. So the people that you so desperately want to prepare you for life are probably incapable of doing it, because there's nobody in my life that could have prepared me for what my life was going to hold at age 30, 35, anything else like that. Yeah, as I get further back in time, yeah, there are people that can probably speak into it a little bit better, but you're absolutely right. We are constantly changing, evolving, figuring out who the hell we are in an effort to enjoy everything that life has given us. Why has nobody prepared me for it? Can't do it. A disheartening thing to hear, but congratulations. That puts you in the exact same boat with everybody else in humanity. So go out and make life whatever you want it to be.
And then similarly for you, I imagine, and then for anybody, but I imagine it's a lot of who we were, who we are, and who we are going to be. Make up every day, not just now, but today and yesterday and tomorrow. And wow, I think we really came to like some good thoughts on this one.
I'm happy with this. We got good conclusions on both topics.
We really did. Like, I did not expect to come to such a good roundabout, circly conclusion on growing up. Because yes, it's going to continue. Obviously, like it goes on forever. But like, wow, we did some digging there. I'm cool with that.
And in a microcosm sort of way, as we're trying to figure out who we are as hosts of this podcast and figure out what this podcast is going to be, gives us some food for thought as we're continuing to record more and more episodes.
It's funny too, because I am not this serious most of the time. I'm a very serious person. I think about like super serious shit like all the time. I am mostly outwardly goofy as fuck, because that's easier than this. So that's why we're going to be next time. My next point of discussion is, where was I standing on the beach? I was in Cape Cod. Why was I in Cape Cod? I was on vacation. Why was I on vacation? Because I was fucking off. And not in the grow up or fuck off kind of way, but in the vacation kind of way, which are fun and important. And we're going to have, I don't know if you've ever read or heard of a supposedly fun thing I'll never do again.
It doesn't ring a bell, no.
It is a magazine article written by remember that big fuck off book that I showed on my stream, Infinite Jest?
Yes.
The author of that wrote an article for Harper's Bazaar about being paid to go on a cruise and his very extremely detailed thoughts about that cruise. And it's very like, it's upbeat and irreverent, but then it also touches upon like broader feelings on life and shit. And that's exactly where we're going next time.
Excellent. I can't wait for it. I will bring an equally cheery, funny topic to the table, and maybe we won't get ourselves into such depth of discussion. Don't get me wrong. I really do enjoy this. But, you want to match vibes with what we're doing here.
I realized that like maybe hiding what we're going to talk about from each other might not be the best idea. We're cool this time because overall I think the tones matched. Yep. But like, if I'm coming to the table and it's like, I want to talk about the best vacation I ever went on, and you're like, we need to talk about all the transgender people that are dying in America, I'd be like, oh fuck me, my god.
That's a massive tonal shift. Yeah, maybe we should actually run topics by each other before we sit down to record.
Yeah, that's why next time it's going to be fun and upbeat and vacationing. Not to say that this wasn't fun nor upbeat, but we're going to talk about vacations. Yay. Woo.
Woo. Yes, we love vacations. I don't know. I got several topics in mind, and I will pick the one that fits the vibe the best.
Pitchin'.
All right. Well, we've spoken for quite a long time tonight, and it's all been
bye everybody. Bye. I'm kidding. No, we should do like a proper like. I forgot to do the whole we need to talk about thing.
Yeah, I know. It's all right. It's
shit.
It's first game jitters. It's completely understandable.
The gimmick's already been blown.
It's all right. We get back on the horse. It's fine. This was wonderful. Like, genuinely, I thoroughly enjoyed both topics that we brought to the table and the conversation that persisted. I love that we ended on high notes for both of them rather than just being in this pit of despair. This is a problem, and it's going to be a problem forever. That kind of thing. I do far too much of that in my personal life. In the meantime, as I and we are figuring out how to push this out onto different platforms and everything. We don't know what recording schedule will be like. We don't know how often these episodes will come out, but we want to continue doing this. In the meantime, Pete, if you want to be found on the internet, where can people find you for more of these hot takes?
My home address is doxed. Literally the only place that you would ever want to find me. The place that you should look for me. Genuinely, twitch.tv/consumablepete. It's spelled exactly how you'd expect it to be spelled. You can find me there on Saturday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern. I said that earlier, but I wasn't joking. Genuinely, every Saturday night, or I try to do it as often as possible, usually every Saturday night, we sit down and we watch old shit usually from the 90s, sometimes from the early 2000s, sometimes from the 80s. All your favorite kids game shows, regular game shows, nostalgia of yesteryear, pouring forth from without my soul. So from within my soul, I don't, oh, now we're going back to right. Which way would that go?
If you said pouring out from within my soul, then it's correct. But if you say pouring from without my soul, I think it may actually work.
Okay. All right. Okay. We'll keep that in mind for next time. Okay. So
grammar lessons with Sammy and Pete.
Yeah, go there. I'm also on like social. I'm on Twitter. That's what it's called. And I don't use those. Go to Twitch and watch me on Saturdays. And I'd like to thank Sammy for coming to my stream tonight. Thank you so much, Sammy, for being on my stream. This was a secret sneak. Next up, we got some Jeopardy and then some Spider Games.
Pre-recorded sneak. Nobody is ever the wiser until like they hit this point during the stream and they realize that we've bamboozled them.
Wait a minute, this isn't live? What the fuck? Pete hasn't been reading chat this whole time.
I will. I'll throw a little bit of promotion in there for Pete as well. Saturday nights on Twitch is one of the most fun experiences that I have. If you have a taste for that nostalgia from 90s and 80s and early 2000s, and you just want to be transported back in time and live through some of that and get some amazing commentary from Pete, but also the people that chat there are generally pretty funny and enjoyable to be around as well. Definitely check it out.
Thanks, Sammy.
You're welcome. I am, conversely, I'm pretty much everywhere. Now, how much I pay attention to those everywheres, who knows? It's anybody's guess. But primarily, you can find me on Twitch, on Instagram, and on YouTube. That's all Sammy Flair, SAMIFLAIR.
Woo!
Varying degrees of response time if you happen to send me messages on. And
Don't message me. Oh, you can message me, I suppose. I don't really know. Who cares? Oh, you can message me. It's fine. I'm friends with all. I will respond. We can be friends if you want to be my friend. Maybe if you're cool, I guess. We'll see.
We got to figure out who you are right now and if we want to be your friend right now.
Right, and then we'll figure out who you're going to be in 10 years, and then we'll reassess.
Perfect. All right. That is going to do it for this episode. Let me redo that. That is going to do it for this episode. Thank you for listening, everybody, regardless of what platform you're listening on. We hope you stick with us. We'll be back with another episode, and Pete is going to teach us all about fucking off. What am I going to talk about? I don't know. But we'll see you then.
Bye, 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 bye.
Bye, bye, bye,
Bye.
bye, bye.
Bye, bye, bye. British bye. British goodbye. You just did an air horn.
That's what I thought it was.
I was doing bye, 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 bye. No, if I was going to do an air horn, it would have just been